Well, welcome once again to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Schools Rider Training. It's Monday the 29th of April and this is show number 424 and it's a miserable looking day outside here in London. Once again, you never know, it's the end of April. I've got a fairly short show for you today. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, sadly due to a dose of COVID. But what we are going to be looking at is that Leicestershire Police, they have referred themselves to the IOPC after a fatal motorcycle crash during a pursuit. The rider who died following the M25 pursuit by Kent Police has been named. Camouflaged police bikes are to target motorcycle safety in Spain, and the popular Route 1066 cafe has been fined for a public health breach. Meanwhile, Project Ares has revealed yet another lightweight electric motorcycle, and the Rocket 3 from Triumph now makes a fairly eye-watering 180 horsepower. And then we'll finish off with a question that I think is quite an important one about whether we're placing too much faith in untested technology. And we'll have a look at the fatal crash involving a Tesla on autopilot, what I mentioned in the last show, when a driver hit a motorcyclist from behind at speed. So settle yourselves down for the next 30 odd minutes as I run through those stories there for you. We have Bo online. Good morning, Bo. Nice to see you. So that's the stories today. So let's get on with the first of my items. This is actually an interesting one because I'm just going to show you a picture here. That's not the right picture. This is the right picture. This is basically an email that popped through my inbox the other day. Now, it reminded me of something that happened some years ago whilst I was in New Zealand out with the Shiny Side Up people, travelling around from venue to venue. What happened was we stopped at an award-winning pie shop. The New Zealanders are fairly proud of their pies, and most of them are pretty good. But this was actually one of the worst pies I've ever eaten anywhere, and the others with me were similarly unimpressed. And as we walked back to the bikes, I actually remember saying, I think the owner must have created the award and given it to himself. And this is what came back to mind when I received this email, and it said, quote, "The 2024 Driving Tuition Awards are closing very soon, but your invite is still open. I wanted to send you a final reminder so you don't miss out on submitting your entry." And then there were some FAQs. Why did we select your company? And the answer to this was, we regularly research potential entrants based on a number of factors, including reviews, recommendations on social media, search engine prominence, and industry recommendations. We believe you would be a strong candidate in the awards. All very good sounding, isn't it? And you can find more information and enter a submission here. And the URL was to something called Business Awards UK. Now, I decided to investigate a little further. Quick mouse hover over the link in the email actually revealed that it led to a completely different URL. Go Win Awards, in fact, completely different. So I did a Google, Go Win Awards. Google threw up nothing about that particular website. So I took a look at the link very carefully. And in the driving tuition category alone, I found that they are offering a whole bunch of different awards, 20 if I didn't miscount, starting with Driving Instructor of the Year, to recognise driving instructors who demonstrate exceptional teaching skills, professionalism and a commitment to producing safe and confident drivers. And the list rolls on through Best New Driving Instructor, Driving School of the Year, Newcomer Driving School of the Year, Special Needs Driving Instructor of the Year, right through to Best Road Safety Initiative, and also a Diversity and Inclusion Champion. Even Eco-Friendly Driving Instructor Award is available. Now, I think you get the picture here. So I read on. As always with Business Awards UK, there is no cost for entries, and you can enter as many categories as you wish. And that rang alarm bells. Hang on, no cost for entries? So obviously something does cost money. What is it? Well, when you dig into the small print, you discover that the award acceptance fees will be shown on the awards entry page, and that's in fact that table there. So if you win, you have to pay £375 plus VAT, of course. This is almost, but not quite, a scam. Now, if I was legitimately getting an award for something, as our Biker Down team did back in 2012 when we won a Prince Michael of Kent International Road Safety Award, and we were presented with our certificates up at the Savoy in London, we weren't asked to foot any kind of bill. So what these actually are what's called vanity awards. Now basically this is a kind of buy your own award scheme with which you can decorate your business brand. Now behind the scheme, I did some more digging, is a digital PR business called Not Just Another Agency Limited, who are based in Halifax in Yorkshire, and who are involved in what they describe as lead generation. That's basically the process of building interest in a product, usually on social media, often with by getting people to review it. I won't go as far as saying to create fraudulent reviews, but you can make your own decisions about that. And they also create paid editorials, guest posts and sponsored content, i.e. the sort of junk renter-writer content of the sort that I've regularly encountered and told you about on sort of the Crash Attorney blogs that you find. So needless to say, I shall not be entering, because if I do, I wouldn't be surprised if I actually got a response telling me that I had actually won. Anyway, on with the weather. If you're waiting for the heat wave that I keep seeing predicted for the UK, which of course makes a big change from the deep freeze Britain snow blast stories that are also currently on social media, don't get the vented leathers out just yet. Today will be a chilly day, possibly not topping 8 Celsius in the east, which is pretty cold for this time of year. Now it will be drier in the west, but much of the rest of the UK sees heavy, possibly thundery rain continuing for a time, and it will be cold along the east coast. Now Monday sees the east-west split reversed. There will be steadier spells of rain moving in across much of the west of the UK during the afternoon. The wind will pick up, but it will be much milder in the east. Temperatures up probably 4 or 5 degrees. Now Tuesday, western areas will continue wet and breezy. The east gets patchy showers crossing the whole of the eastern part of England. Wednesday looks like another patchy rain and bright spells, heavier rain in the south later, but the temperatures are at last on the climb. Could be up to 18 top temperature in the southeast on Wednesday. But still not really biking weather, is it? Kevin's looked in, says good morning. Nice to see you, Kevin. Right, okay, so on with the news. Now, Leicestershire Police, sadly, are the latest forced to refer themselves to the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC. And this follows a fatal crash involving a motorcyclist in Leicester city centre. Now the rider of a Kawasaki motorcycle was apparently asked to stop by police. He didn't, and a short time later the bike crashed into a lamppost. Now the force said a man in his 20s was taken to hospital but died a short time later. The IOPC, their spokesperson, said, "We can confirm that we have decided to investigate police involvement with a motorcyclist prior to the fatal collision in Leicester. After we were notified by Leicester Police, we sent our investigators to the police post-incident process to begin gathering information. We'll be contacting the man's next of kin to express our condolences and explain how our investigation will progress." Now, sort of on a similar theme, sadly, back in show number 421, I reported that 2 teenagers had been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving after their Range Rover was involved in collision with a motorcyclist. Now, this followed a police pursuit, Kent Police in this case, through the Dartford Tunnel. Kent Police duly referred themselves to the IOPC after that incident. But the name of the female motorcyclist who's been died has now been released. She was Andrina Everett, and she was just 19 years old. Over in Spain, it's been announced on Friday that what are called camouflaged motorcycles are going to be deployed on roads in Spain where there are highest accident rates, and this includes the popular tourist destinations of Andalusia, Valencia, Galicia, the Balearic Islands, and the Canary Islands, where I was actually on holiday back in February. Control and surveillance campaigns, they say, will be intensified on weekends between June and October, the months with a higher presence of motorcycles on the roads. Now, the statement actually points to what they called an alarming 16% increase in road casualties for motorcyclists recorded during the first quarter of 2024. Now, when similar statements are used about deaths in the UK, they often underpin the rationale for another campaign aimed at motorcyclists. I often point to the phenomenon of regression to the mean and why it's unreliable to take 1 year's data out of context with the longer term figures. And the authorities in the UK in the last couple of years have been really guilty of this because they keep comparing the most recent data with 2021 and particularly with 2020 when lockdowns significantly reduced motorcycle traffic and hence resulted in lower crash rates. But I was interested to see that whilst the statement described this 16% increase as unacceptable, it also offered some context by saying that the usual fluctuations in road accidents is typically around 5%. Of course, we still don't have any data about why those crashes actually happen. Was it more people riding more motorcycles, more kilometres? Was it something to do with the weather? It's been particularly grim in Spain as well, as far as I understand. It may be that people not used to riding in poor conditions have been out on their bikes. I don't know. Meanwhile, back in England, the popular Route 1066 cafe, situated on the A21 between Battle and Robertsbridge in East Sussex, has been fined £6,000 and ordered to pay a £2,400 surcharge, as well as full costs to Rother District Council, that's another £1,725, after environmental health officers uncovered a rat infestation. At Hastings Magistrates Court on the 25th of April. Sandra Wells, 62, director of the Route 66 Cafe Limited, she pleaded guilty to 3 offences under food hygiene legislation. Now, what happened apparently was that a member of the public reported that they'd seen rodents in the cafe, which is a regular meet point for motorcyclists, as you probably know. A team from the Rother District Council then subsequently visited the cafe. This was back in August last year. Now, council officers said that during their inspection they found fresh rat droppings under kitchen workstations and in storerooms, rat paw prints in the dust behind the chest freezer, food packaging which had been gnawed by rats, and empty packets of rat poison which had also been gnawed by rats. So it's fairly obvious that they knew there were rats there. They also found a hole in the storeroom which acted as the entry point for the rats, and more rat droppings were found behind the building where rubbish was piled up. Now, the business was open and trading at the time, with staff actually preparing food as the inspection took place, and they do say that the owner immediately and voluntarily closed the business and began making the necessary improvements. But further investigations also found that the legally required food hygiene records were not up to date either. So the cafe remained closed. It was shut for 3 days until the infestation was eliminated, a deep clean completed, and the rat hole entrance holes blocked, and the record keeping recommenced. Now, the cafe owner told ITV News the problems were dealt with straight away. We voluntarily closed for 3 days in August. We made sure everything was okay. It was dealt with a long time ago. We've had no issues since. Yes, but I think we would have all preferred to have been eating there when the problem didn't exist. Fixing it and saying it was a long time ago really is a bit of a cop-out in my opinion. Anybody go to the 1066? It's not I don't tend to frequent places like that, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, I've got a comment here from John. Oh, I've still got the banner running at the bottom, haven't I? Let's get rid of that. John says, I treat anything described as award-winning with the same scepticism we've learned to treat anything described as by a former recent Prime Minister as world-beating. Yeah, excellent. I tend to agree with you on that one. So, why have I just pressed the wrong button again? Yes, good comment there. Now, don't forget, if you do have any questions, any comments, anything you want to say, I do love to hear from you. If you've got any comments on the 1066 story, I'll certainly be very interested to hear what you have to comment on that. I'll answer live whenever I can. If not, I will get back to you after the show. So drop me a line on what you think about that. Right, okay, motorcycle time. Let's have a look at this particular motorcycle. Let's zoom in, give you a better view of it. This is Project Ares, and this is being put together by a US-based company called Real Motors. And apparently it is an electric sports bike with science fiction styling and old school performance. Now its makers hope it will be a hit with a new generation of riders. This is the prototype undergoing testing at the moment, described as a light cafe racer. And they then described cafe racers as a genre of sporting motorbike that stems from the modified production machines that used to frequent the cafes along London's North Circular Road in 1960s, and the Ace, of course, which isn't far away from where I am at the moment. Now, personally, I think that any old school rockers will be actually laughing their heads off looking at that particular machine. And to be honest, I think it looks more like a fridge or a washing machine on wheels than a motorcycle. White goods is what springs to mind there. Now, as I say, this development model is undergoing trials. Its design specs for a top speed of 90 to 100 miles per hour. The bike is fitted with an 11 kilowatt hour battery that's claimed to offer a 100-mile range, but if you use anything like the top speed, I suspect it will be a lot shorter. Real Motors founders Michael Feng and Trent Dingman say that it's a functional bike you can use every day and an ideal vehicle for first-time motorcycle owners. But that's slightly at odds. There are other statements which say it's an expensive toy and that it will have an expected price of around $20,000 US. I'd say it's a case of either one or the other, but certainly not both. Now, you probably won't be surprised, of course, to discover that the bike's components, including the battery, the motor and the chassis parts, are all being sourced in China, and just assembly will actually take place in the US. Now, delivery of functioning machines to customers is still a way off, so to be late next year, but you'll also probably not be surprised to hear that the company wants early adopters to pre-order the first batch of bikes, which are due for delivery. I just said it late last year, didn't I? And that brings me to Triumph and their latest Rocket 3. So let's have a look at that particular machine. There we go. I've got that picture right. So the original bike is now fairly astonishingly 20 years old. It appeared with 140 horsepower 2.3 litre engine, and it's undergone steady updates. The engine was stretched to 2.5 litres. That happened in 2020, and it's the biggest motorcycle engine in history, apparently. So what's happened for the 2024 bikes? Well, there are two models available, but they've both been updated to make the machine Euro 5 compliant. And astonishingly, they've actually managed to boost the power output by 16 horsepower up to a fairly amazing 180 horsepower. Remembering this is a cruiser, of course. The machine actually needs a car-sized 240 section rear tyre to control the 166 pound-feet of torque. Now, I know some riders love them, but I'll be perfectly honest, I like lightweight machines, and I've never understood the logic behind building a motorcycle with a 3-cylinder engine that's actually bigger than many car engines, and it weighs nearly a third of a ton as well, so it's hardly a lightweight motorcycle, well over 300 kilograms. The only reason I can see for riding something like this is to have the biggest bike on the block. Anyway, it baffles me. If you want one, you'll be needing to find over £23,000 in your pocket, so it's a bit more expensive than that refrigerator on wheels that we just saw from the US. But what springs to my mind here is that if you can buy one each of Triumph's new 400s, the Speed and the Scrambler, and you'd still have more than £14,000 left over, so I know which option I would choose. Anyway, let me know. What do you think? You've ridden a Speed, the Rocket 3. Have you enjoyed it? Did you find it easy to manage, or did you wonder what on earth it was for? Drop me a line. I'll be very interested to hear. Now, if you do want to put a motorcycle engine into something that will balance itself, you could do something that has been done by a dealer out in France. Again, let's zoom in and give you a quick look at that. If you know your BMW engines, you might recognize that as the R18 motor. And if you, it's a bit hard to see from here, but this is actually the front of a Mini you're looking at. That's the original Mini, by the way, the 1960s vehicle. Now, you only get half the power and around 2/3, 3/4 of the torque with the R18 motor, but for some reason this dealership in France, BMW dealership, decided that they would stick one in the Mini, and they have had to recraft the entire front end of the car, of course, to get the engine in, and the pictures show it apparently missing wings and a bonnet too, but they also had to go to the remarkable step of converting the Mini to rear-wheel drive. They were, of course, one of the very first front-wheel drive cars around, and they used an axle from a BMW 3 Series car to do that. So in just case you're wondering what the answer to the question why is, my guess is because they could, would being the suitable answer to that question. So yeah, lots of people stick bike engines in lightweight cars. Hayabusas are fairly popular on that front. I've seen Fireblade engine cars as well, but never one with a flat twin BMW. Anyway, there we go. Right, so as I said, a fairly short show today because I'm feeling a little bit under weather, but so we're into the in-depth item today, which is to ask a question is if we are pinning too much faith in unproven, untested technology. Because my observations here really is that we're increasingly subject to hardware and software which is actually being tested on the public. One of the highest profile cases of this is the debacle that Boeing have found themselves in with the 737 MAX, with the software that keeps the plane in the air apparently not doing so and causing 2 catastrophic crashes. Closer to home in the UK, we also have the stop vehicle detection system that's already installed on something over half of the UK's or England's smart motorways, and is planned to be rolled out to the rest, despite it being documented to suffer regular and numerous failures where it simply doesn't work, doesn't actually detect the vehicles that have come to a halt in the middle of the road. Now, last time out, I also reported on a collision between a Tesla and a motorcycle. In this case, the driver had activated the feature called autopilot on his 2022 Tesla Model S, allegedly to check his phone. That's what he told police. And he rear-ended a bike ahead of him at speed, killing the rider. Now, any technology can have faults, but that's really what the research and particularly the testing stages are designed to weed out. The design, an updated design, it will meld novel solutions with existing best practice usually, but the trial phase is there to throw up any issues. Now, you probably aren't going to weed out every single issue with a trial phase, but the aim is basically if it works in the trials, then great, roll it out. But if it doesn't, then it's back to the drawing board. At least that's how it should be. But it seems that increasingly the software which is being trialed is actually being rolled out to the public, and this is where Tesla comes in. The Tesla autopilot, excuse me, I've got an itchy nose, is intended to enable cars to steer, accelerate and brake automatically while staying in their lane, whilst the enhanced autopilot can assist in changing lanes on highways, but none of this actually makes the vehicles self-driving, autonomous in other words. As I said, one of the components of autopilot is auto steer, and this maintains a set speed or following distance, and it's supposed to keep the vehicle in the driving lane. Now, this incident where the motorcycle was hit from the rear by a Tesla isn't the first crash involving motorcycles. And previous crashes have been blamed on the system's moved cameras rather than radar. Now, Tesla began removing radar from its vehicles and replacing them with what are called Tesla Vision cameras in 2021. Because it's cheaper apparently, and it's been claimed that the different proportions of the motorcycle can make the system believe the bike is actually further away than it is in reality. I've also read claims that the system fails to sweep to the sides of the lane ahead of the vehicle effectively, and fails to spot motorcycles which aren't dead centre in the lane. Okay, so that's the first problem. There seems to be some hardware, software issues. But the second problem is if the technology itself, even if it's built properly, it can also be misused. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, they recently revealed the results of a near 3-year investigation into Tesla's autopilot. And they identified at least 13 Tesla crashes, including 1 or more deaths, and many more involving serious injuries, in which what they say is foreseeable driver misuse of the system played an apparent role. Now, Tesla will and have claimed that they are not culpable for these kind of incidents, as the official line is that with their so-called autopilot and full self-driving software, that these are intended for use with a fully attentive driver who has their hands on the wheel and are prepared to take over at any moment. And according to the company's website, the driver must also opt in to these terms and conditions before they turn on autopilot. But both Tesla as a company and Elon Musk have publicly talked about autopilots and their cars as driving themselves. So not surprisingly, many people buying these cars do actually believe they are self-driving. And the NHTSA has raised this concern. They point to the autopilot name as possibly leading drivers to believe that the automation has greater capabilities than it does, and invites drivers to overly trust the automation. And in fact, that's why in December, having completed their first investigation, the 3-year one I've just mentioned, the NHTSA ordered Tesla to recall 4 of its models with autopilot, including the S involved in this crash, saying that the function wasn't, quote, sufficient to prevent driver misuse, and that could increase the risk of a crash. Now, Tesla back in December said they didn't agree with the NHTSA's analysis, but they did in fact release a free over-the-air software update to all their cars equipped with autopilot, which were intended to prevent driver misuse of the function. But did it work? Well, the NHTSA has promptly opened a second investigation to determine whether that over-the-air recall, installing the fresh safeguards, was actually adequate, following more crashes involving the vehicles that had had the software update installed. But don't worry, it gets worse. It's not just Tesla and many other automotive firms who are pressing ahead with these driver aids and even right up to the sort of self-driving cars. There are manufacturers experimenting with self-riding bikes too. We have BMW's Next Vision 100, we have the Kawasaki AI Rideology project, and of course there's the Yamaha Motoroid bike, which Yamaha have busily been promoting in the press. They're all set to adopt some measure of autonomy, with bikes systems taking some control of the machine. So the question is not would motorcycles with autopilot still be worth riding, as I read in one recent article, but are these systems going to be reliable enough for use on the roads. Now, you know, my thinking here is if we can't get it right with a self-balancing four-wheeler, you know, how much hope is there that an autonomous motorcycle will actually succeed? I have very severe doubts on that one. So let me know, what do you think on that? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you believe that Musk has got it right? Do you believe he's got it wrong? Would you put a Tesla on autopilot on British roads? Let me know. I'll certainly be very interested to find out. Okay, and that brings me to the end of the show. Don't forget, where are we? Oh yeah, shout out for supporters from last time out. Yeah, thanks very much indeed to Brian, Rogerio. Well, I've lost my list now. Where is it? He bought the Science Being Seen book. Yeah, Mike and NJ and Anonymous. Always get Anonymous in there. Anonymous must be a very popular name around our way. Thank you again for supporting this channel. If you do want to support the channel, then head to my Ko-fi page. That's the best place to go. Here is a QR code that will take you straight there. So just click that if you're watching on your phone, or just scan it or something, and you'll head off to my Ko-fi page. Then you can become a supporter or a monthly subscriber. Now don't forget, as a supporter, you open up a month's access to Survival Skills Archive, where there are over 1,000 better biking articles, and I do challenge you to read them all in that time, which is why I suggest people become subscribers, and then you can access as long as you want. Right, that is it for today. Thank you once again for watching. I've got a couple of comments. Ben says, what actually is the point of a self-riding motorcycle? New Toyota with a disappointing amount of tech that I can't turn off completely, doing nothing for safety. Yeah, okay, I'm with you on that one. And Clive says, thanks for the show. Thank you for watching. So yeah, thanks for all your comments, either now or in the future. That is pretty much it for today. Don't forget, if you are out there on the bike over the next few days, weather is changeable. Keep an eye on the weather forecast, and if you are riding, stay shiny side up.